Hey guys, what's up? It's Stephanie. Welcome back to my channel. So in the video today, I'm going to be discussing the question in regards to what's harder, clinical year or didactic year PA school. Now that I am officially a PAC certified physician assistant, I am currently a critical care medicine resident. So I'm completing a residency for critical care. Real quick, so for PAs, residencies are not required after you graduate PA school, but I decided to do one because I wanted to make sure I get a lot more experience and learn more in regards to critical care medicine. Because as a new graduate, there's a very high learning curve for critical care medicine, and it's very difficult for a PA to find a job as a new graduate in critical care medicine. And if it is, it's great, awesome for them, but it's just a very high learning curve. So that's why I decided to do a critical care medicine residency. So that's what I am currently. So now that I've completed PA school, I've completed didactic year, I've completed clinical year PA school, I've passed my PAN. Now I am a resident, so I've done the whole application process for PA school, I've done the whole application process and interview process for your residencies. Now that I've done all that, what has been harder for me, clinical year or didactic year of PA school? So out of the two, by far, I have to say that didactic year was by far the hardest year for me. It was the hardest year for me for all school that I've been in. So in comparison to all my undergraduate years, it has been the most hardest year just in general for education. There was times, multiple times, where I had anxious breakdowns. There was multiple times where I cried myself to sleep. I told myself I was not good enough for PA school. I was not good enough to be accepted into PA school. Why did they accept me? I've been doing so bad. I really thought I was going to fail out of PA school. And that was definitely during my didactic years. So there was a lot of highs and lows. And I can say that also for some of my classmates, I know some of my classmates that felt the same way. And I was there when they felt certain ways. And they were there for me when they felt, for example, depressed, when they felt anxious, when they felt like they weren't good enough for PA school. So I do have to say that by far didactic year was the hardest one. And the reason is because you're just learning so much information. You are learning so much information in such a short period of time. And it's like everyone says, it feels like you're drinking water out of a water hose because it's so much information just being thrown at you. You're learning pharmacology, you're learning physiology, anatomy physiology, pathophysiology of the diseases you're treating, how to treat those diseases, why do you treat those diseases, how to perform physical exams, how to do specific physical exam maneuvers, what are certain physical exam findings mean for a patient? Like when a patient presents with a dilated pupil, what does that mean? Like what are some of your differential diagnoses? How to read labs, how to interpret them, what diagnostic tests to order, what are specific diagnostic tests, what are CT scans, what are MRIs, etc. So you're learning so much information during that year. After you learn all that, after that, clinical year is difficult also, but for me it wasn't as hard as didactic year. And the thing about didactic year is it's really important that you kind of ensure that you have a foundation and a basis for everything that you are learning. And that's what's going to help you out during your clinical rotations, your clinical year PA school, to pass your PANs and to be a better provider. So that year is the most important year, and it's going to be one of the years you're going to be working the hardest. And I think it's really important that you work really hard during that year. You want to make sure that you know your stuff, because if you don't, and say you just memorize and dump, when it comes down to that clinical year PA school, you're going to have a lot of difficult. Not only with treating patients, seeing patients, but also with the doctors, your preceptors. They'll ask you questions, and so expect that during your clinical year. And I know I've said this over and over again, but it's like one of my nephrologists said, he had a really good quote. He basically said that if you start crooked, you end up crooked. And he's very right. If you start not having an interest in the information or just memorizing and dumping, and not really learning your basis, your foundation of anatomy, right? Your basis and foundation of pathophysiology, your basis and foundation of pharmacology, right? Then it's going to be really hard once you start progressing through school, right? Because that year is really important. And that year you have a lot of exams in comparison to your clinical year PA school. So in clinical year PA school, I would have 2 exams per month, and then we would have a few quizzes like every week, right? But it was just quizzes, it wasn't exams. Versus your didactic year PA school, you had exams, and on average, every week. And not only every week, there were certain days out of the week or certain weeks within that month where we called it Black Monday because we would have 4 exams on one Monday. So that was called Black Monday. So 4 exams on one Monday, and that was like 1 week out of the entire month. But throughout that month, we were having an exam. So we were having to constantly study. The days were long, so you would be in class Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, 8 to 6 sometimes. You had labs, right? You had your patient encounter labs where you learn how to do the physical exams. You would have your anatomy physiology class. We had cadavers in my program, so we would go and dissect the cadavers. And so on top of that, you're also having assignments that are having to be done. You're attending class, and then you're also studying on top of that for your classes. So it's a lot, and it's really important for you to succeed, to have really good time management skills to ensure that you're learning everything and you're also not going insane, right? Because that's one of the years that a lot of students are just like, I can't take it, it's too much. But I do have to say, in comparison to both of the years, by far didactic year is going to be the most difficult one, but it's also the most important one in regards to your career as a PA and in regards to you doing well in PA school, because that's where you learn your bases, your foundation. So make sure you learn your information. Don't only memorize and dump. Repetition is really the key, whether you're doing it through flashcards every day, whether you're listening to podcasts, you're watching videos, repetition is the key.
Another one.
And that's how the information is going to be staying in your brain. Because, for example, we went over hematology, immunology, oncology, like September, right? Well, we didn't touch that subject until after we finished didactic year. So you haven't really gone over hematology or oncology that entire didactic year. And once you start clinical rotations and say you decided to do an elective in oncology, then if you weren't keeping up with everything that you were learning and studying, and also the information that you had studied prior, then you're going to struggle a lot during your oncology class. So that's why I say repetition is the key, making sure that you are still keeping up to date with all the information that you've learned in PA school.
Another one.
And that's how it's going to be able to stay in your mind. You'll be able to retain it for your clinical rotations, and then during clinical rotations, you'll be able to retain that information for your PANS. So yes, didactic year by far was the most difficult year, just because you're learning so much information, you're taking all these classes, and also the classes, just how long they are, and just a short amount of period in time that you have. Like summer school was definitely really hard. We were taking a lot of classes in such a short period of time. But once you're past that didactic year PA school, you are good. Clinical year is not as bad. Once you pass clinical year, if you did well during the didactic year and you make sure you study well during didactic year and clinical year, and you did well in your end of rotation exams, then all you have to do is do the PANS and pass the PANS. And if you've been studying good once again and not slacking off, then you can do really good on your PANS and you'll be able to pass your PANS. So it's all about how hard you work during your didactic year and clinical year, but by far, didactic year was the most difficult year for me in my experience in regards to just what was the most hardest year, didactic year. All right, guys, so I hope this video was helpful for you guys. For those of you who are about to start PA school, prepare yourself. But if you do well during the didactic year and you learn your information, like I said, and you pass all your classes, once you finish didactic year, it's a breeze after that. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're still going to be studying a lot, but not as much in comparison to didactic year. Especially if you worked your butt off during didactic year, then you'll be fine during clinical year. And that's how it worked out for a lot of my classmates that worked their butt off really hard for their didactic year. During clinical year, they still worked their butt off, but not as hard during didactic year because they knew their information so well, and they were just kind of repeating to ensure that information stays in the back of their mind. All right, guys, as always, if you have any questions for me, make sure you comment below, and take care, and I'll talk to you guys later.